I was listening to a podcast the last couple of days on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and one of the speakers talked about fear not being able to exist in the presence of love. And clearly, with all the rhetoric that's going on, there's not a lot of love being shown by a lot of people, and that's understandable in certain situations, particularly with the loss of so many lives. But I wonder what love and fear have got to do with our business lives and how they operate within business. A coach once said to me that behind all coaching situations, if you dig far enough back, there is some sort of a fear. And I believe that. And I also understand that fear is about our thinking more than our circumstances. Yes, there are genuine circumstances, such as in Israel and Palestine, where it's understandable that people are fearful. But how can fear come into business? We may not express it as fear, but we would express it as concern, worry, anxiety. But it has its roots in the fear. And the fear is generally the fear of something that we think bad will happen to us. Something that we think bad will happen to us in a future time if the present time doesn't work out the way we want. And that presupposes that we have the ability to foresee the future, which clearly we don't. But yet we have this fear about what the future might hold for us. And we talk about being courageous and feeling the fear and doing it anyway, as the title of a famous book talked about. But what if we didn't have to have fear? What if we could be fearless? What if we understood more about the nature of fear as a made-up future that may or may not happen, that makes us currently worry in the now, in the present? That fear is about the thought of what will happen to us. And if fear can't exist in the presence of love, then maybe fear is showing an absence of love. Maybe in business situations we're dealing with people, or we're dealing with a manager, or maybe we are the manager or the leader, and we're not showing love, and that allows the people we work with, the people who work for us, to develop these fears because there is an absence of love. When I say love, what has love got to do with business? Love is a very much misused word, particularly in the English language. Other languages have many different versions of love. And one of the descriptions I could describe would be unconditional positive regard. It always reminds me of listening to Tommy Tiernan talk to a psychologist on his chat show. And he asked the psychologist about his work and what he did. And the psychologist said that he held a space of unconditional positive regard for those people that he's working with or counselling. And when Tommy asked him to describe it and he heard the description, Tommy says, "That sounds like love to me." And the psychologist was slightly taken aback and at first didn't want to equate love with what he did. So he gave a further explanation, and Tommy says, "That still sounds like love to me." And it is love, where we're holding an unconditional positive regard. We're holding a space of non-judgment for the people that we work with, and maybe for the people, more importantly, who work for us. We hold a space of non-judgment of them. In business, we have to be judging of situations. We have to be judging of what will get us to where we want to get to. But that doesn't mean we need to be judging of the people, judging of them as individuals. So unconditional positive regard, or love, has a non-judgmental element to it. It has an element of mindfulness as well to it, an element of compassion, an element of forgiveness, and it definitely has an element of non-violence. So that's the sort of situation that we want to engender within our workplaces, that creates an environment or creates an atmosphere within which fear can't thrive, fear can't survive, because it's love that's overwhelming. Love does not mean that people do not need to be held accountable for their actions. Love isn't a barrier to asking people to perform their jobs to the best of their ability. I would actually say love is an enabler to helping people perform their jobs to the best of their ability. And when people do perform their jobs to the best of their ability, love is present. When they're not performing to their best of their ability, love can still be present, and we can still encourage that performance, or in some cases we can encourage them to maybe seek a different career, and that can also be loving. So love in business does not necessarily mean that people are not held accountable, that people are not held up to their responsibilities and their performance metrics, and that people aren't sanctioned if they don't perform, that people aren't ultimately made to move into a different position or a different job or a different career if this career is not for them. But I think it's worth considering, how can we bring more love into our businesses, into our organisations, into our meetings with others?